Okay, I'm going to start. Welcome everyone to this session. I'm so excited to be sharing this amazing topic with some beautiful, beautiful people. I'm here with Jazz. As some of you know, we do a monthly session called the Coffee Set with Jazz and Abbey. And this evening on today, for some of you, because it's daytime where you are, we have got a special guest who we're bringing on, who I recently only met, and she has so much knowledge about this topic that we decided to do a session with us. Also, Jazz Deep is also studying around this topic as well, and we're going to be delving into that. So it's going to be really lovely to be able to hear from some of you as well. We hope that we can hear from a couple of people. There's supposed to be 60 people signed up today to this session. If everyone makes it, I don't know, some people will just receive the replay. I believe that they're in different time zones. So we will be talking a little bit, and some of you will be able to share your stories, even just a little bit of where you are with this topic, because this is a sharing circle for all of us. Actually, this is why we created this. And so if some of you want to share your story or share something about any of the topics tonight, you just please put it into the chat box. We'd love to hear from you and learn a little bit about you too. So my name is Abbey. For those that don't know, I've been running the Heal Avalon Facebook group for almost 3 years now. It's been amazing so far. And I've met so many people. I run classes around the HEALY, and I'm just, you know, for everything that I do, I always love to share something for everybody every so often on this group. So Heather Jones is our special guest this evening. And she is someone that is actually been working around the topic of emotional eating. She's also a dietitian. She's written a few best-selling books, and she's going to tell you all about that in a second. And we're going to be hearing a little bit about this topic of emotional eating this evening. We're going to be working with Jazz Deep on the TimeWaver. We're going to be doing a scan on the whole group, which is going to be super exciting. We're going to get to see how that works. And we'll be able to really feel into the frequencies, and Jazz, I believe, is going to do a hypnosis, if I'm right, or she's going to do something with TimeWaver with a hypnosis. I'm not 100% sure yet, but she's going to guide that. So without further ado, Jazz, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, Abby. Yeah, I'm here. I've arrived.
Hi. Perfect. So this call is always super relaxed and easygoing, and I'm just happy to share this all with you all. And so I'd like to invite now Heather to just introduce yourself, let our watchers know where you're at, how you got where you are, and a little bit about what you do as well.
Hi, everyone. So nice to be here. So I have been working in the field of health and food and body for over 25 years now, which seems like a crazy amount of time. But my relationship with food, and my rather uncomfortable relationship with food, really began when I was very young. I started to binge eat and hide food when I was very young. I grew up in a home with a dad who had a lot of struggles with food and weight. And he was constantly on these diets. He was on these hospital controlled diets, liquid diets. He was 100+ pounds overweight. And so it was like this constant topic in my house, and he really couldn't stay on the diet as well. He would try all these different things, and then he would cheat. He would fall off of these things. And then my mom, who was doing her very best to try and help with all of this, was really scared that me and my two other my sisters and I would end up like my dad. And so we had a lot of food restrictions in the house, a lot of things we weren't allowed to eat. There was a lot of talk about how you had to be careful or you're going to end up like your dad. And so there's just a lot of fear and a lot of beliefs that I took on at a very young age. And my relationship with food, you know, was really, it wasn't about nourishment. It wasn't about empowerment. It wasn't about how this body of mine is amazing. It wasn't even about the enjoyment about food. It was about being afraid of food and being afraid that my body didn't work in the way that it was supposed to work. So it started at a very young age for me. And like a lot of people that I know that have a really uncomfortable relationship with food, you go to school for that, right? You decide, oh, I'll go to school and get the knowledge that I need in order to form a better relationship with food. So that's what I did. I went to college and I studied, nutrition and food and all of these things. But it's so funny because the more I learned about nutrition and health, for me, actually the more dysfunctional my relationship with food got. So it didn't help things, it made it much worse because it was still coming from this very, very fearful place. And once I wasn't living in the house with my parents anymore, I had freedom with food. And so I was really excited about food on one hand, but I would binge on food and then I would restrict food. And then I started to use coffee and cigarettes and all kinds of things to suppress, whenever my body needed food, my instinct that I had been raised to kind of believe, this instinct was, oh, when your body needs food, push that down, right? Like I thought it was a successful day if I pushed that down. And the conditioning was really deep. And I think that for a lot of us, the conditioning around body and food is really, really deep. I mean, if I could be in school in a nutrition, learning about nutrition and food, but the conditioning was so deep, I couldn't even make that connect, right? Like that's how deep it was for me. And so many of us have taken on sort of these deep wounds around food, around our body, about our worth being connected to how we look. And so there's a lot to unpack there. But I think it's a really interesting and awesome way to come back to the heart, because you can't run away from the body that you have, right? We have a body. We're in this life with the body that we have, and you can't run away from it. It's always here. And if you have issues with food or body, whether that's, acid reflux or things with digestion or weight that you can't seem, that holds on, or if you use food to emotionally support yourself, which is what I learned to do at a young age as well. What I love is that it's this beautiful doorway and it's a portal to really understand yourself more. And your body is never, what I think is so important for us to just, really sink into this idea that the body is never against you. Your body is your best friend. And even if it feels like, for me, I had to really untangle these stories in my mind that my body was somehow something I need to fight, right? I was at war with this body of mine, but the body is never at war with you. The body is always giving you a sign, right? Acid reflux is always a sign that there's something going on inside of you that needs love. Digestion is, if you have something that's going wrong there, how are you not digesting life? How are you not digesting your experiences in life and the emotions in your life? And if you're using food to emotionally support yourself, then what inside of you needs love and support? So I feel like it's a great mirror to understand ourselves, but to really turn around that sort of idea and belief that my body is betraying me, or that I can't trust this amazing, intelligent, magnificent, divinely, created body, right? We have such a natural war with ourselves that we're not really aware of until we start to wake up and really see that. So that's how it started for me. And I had this really uncomfortable relationship with food, and then that extended into alcohol and to drugs. And then eventually, by the time I was 31, my whole life was kind of a big mess. And I started to have 15 panic attacks each day. And a marriage that I was in came to an end. And that really put the brakes on for me. It was like everything in my life, my body was creating all of these experiences in my life to help me wake up, to help me say, oh my God, what is going on inside of me, right? And so that is how I started on this path. And eventually, I was working for a nonprofit health group at the time, right? And supposed to be this person who is helping everybody else with good health. But on the other hand, I had this double life where I was going out every night, drinking, smoking, binging, doing all these really destructive things. And so I felt like such a hypocrite. I felt like there must be something wrong with me, because I desperately wanted to change. I desperately wanted to live a life where I was, had vibrant health and was in a balanced place. But it wasn't until I started to go within that I was able to really create change. And so all of these things that had been the biggest pain in my life, from, I had trouble speaking when I was young. I struggled you know, with food, I struggled with these panic attacks, but all of these things ended up being the exact thing that woke me up and got me back to my heart. So that's kind of like the introduction of that. And I can share that chart.
Amazing, amazing. Just to kind of follow on that a little bit, because we had a conversation before that we both had a stutter growing up, which is also an interesting topic as well, you know, around the throat. But also, you know, I think we've all been there. For those people who are watching now, I think we've all been there where we've maybe had the way we've been brought up with food. I mean, I remember like being brought up with a lot of sugar, actually, and eating loads of biscuits and all sorts of stuff. You know, I would be hiding it as well in my room as a child, just because I wanted to eat so many biscuits. And even to this day, I still struggle with sugar. And I know that it's really part of my family thing. I think every family has a way, doesn't it, to comfort themselves with food. And I definitely want to comfort myself with sugar when I feel a certain way. And it's really, I notice how my whole psyche changes when I eat sugar. And when you start to realize that, and like you said, you know, you have all these big life changes and life experiences to wake you up. And I'm extremely grateful for all mine as well. I think it's hard if you can overcome it. It's amazing, because, you know, for those people that are going through challenging times, maybe are still going through addiction processes, there is a way through it. But it's all, for me, emotions is a massive topic. And I think that if we can just really look at our emotions and find a way to look at that and get emotional intelligence around it, then we're really going to go deep with it. I think emotions are such a huge thing, actually. I think that if we can look at it on that level, and I know you're going to talk about that now in a second, but yeah, I feel like without that space to be able for me to release the emotions that I've had trapped in my body, because I had a similar like 20s as you know, kind of like self-destruction. I definitely learned by expressing whatever emotions I had inside of me through also dynamic meditation and a few other techniques, to understand what my emotions were and that it wasn't something that needed to be suppressed. And we do look externally for the answer, and actually it is all within us, and it's about that understanding that. So I really resonate with what you're saying, definitely. So you should be able to share the screen if you wanted to share a little bit also what we talked about, and show everyone your perspective.
Yeah, I'll share this awesome chart that really helped me to understand myself. And it's from an energetic point of view, which is helpful, since the HEALY, of course, is a device that helps us to understand that. But the emotional thing, you know, we aren't given that. At least I wasn't given that point of view. Nobody, you know, my mom didn't understand how to support herself in an emotional way, so she couldn't share that with me. So many of us are like the first ones in our line saying, okay, this stops with me. I'm going to learn how to emotionally support myself. I'm going to learn how to create a loving relationship with myself, my body, and with food, right? It has to start with us, because we aren't given these tools. So this is a chart that I think is amazing. And I think in the diet and health and weight loss world, so many of us, and I certainly did this for so many years, we are trying to create change from this place that David calls force, right? And David is a consciousness science researcher, and he has many books, and his books are all so good. But he really understood frequency, emotions, the energetics of life, and how this all works. And so when I saw this chart, it just made so much sense to me, right? When you are in a place of shame or a place of guilt or a place of grief or fear, you tend to get stuck here where you don't do much. Or you might occasionally lift up into this space here. And this desire, by the way, is not like a heart's desire. It's more like an uncomfortable craving desire, right? And so you might lift up into this emotional space right here, and then go into one of those spaces where you're like, okay, this is it. I'm going to get on the right diet. I'm going to restrict all the food. I'm going to force myself to do the things I need to do. And you try in this like hyperactive place to create change. But eventually, if you don't have tools to emotionally support yourself and you haven't done the internal work, you eventually end up sliding right back into the old, you know, ways of being before. And then you end up here. And this is like the loop that most people stay in right here. But when we start to go within and we start to really look at the beliefs and the aspects of us that need love, right? The parts of us that don't believe we're good enough or strong enough, the parts of us that believe, our body is the wrong one or something is terribly wrong with us. We start to look at that and start to unpack that and start to show ourselves how we can come back to the heart, how we can lift up into this place of power and be able to really access the intuition and the intelligence and the heart intelligence that we need in order to create a healthy relationship with ourselves. Then it starts to unfold with a lot more ease, right? And what's amazing is that, the more you do this internal work, the easier it is to stay in your heart. But you don't have to meditate for 10 years in order to access your heart. You can train yourself through breath work and through different things that you can do to help you get into your heart every time before you eat, and to start to really unpack and untangle that emotional relationship with food. Like even just kind of setting the intention for yourself every single day before you eat or drink anything, just take a few minutes to take some deep breaths and come back to the heart and really check in. Am I actually eating this thing because my body needs food? Or am I trying to emotionally support myself here? Starting to unpack that and become more mindful and more aware. And that really helps. But the more that we do the internal work and lift up into this place of power, the more we're able to hear the spiritual intuition and the guidance inside of us. And we're able to hear what our body is trying to tell us all the time, because the body is intelligent. The body knows what you need. And I think what happens, eating from an intuitive point of view is something that you hear in my world quite a bit. But a lot of people are trying to eat intuitively, still in this lower and energetic place. They haven't really worked them, don't have the tools yet to get into this place where they can actually hear what it is that they need. Now, our guidance is there with us all of the time, right? Your guidance is with you even when you're in these states, but you can't hear that as much and you can't perceive that as much when you're down here. So my approach has always been to do the inner work first, to really unpack, do what I call the inner housekeeping first, to unpack these beliefs we have around food, body, ourselves, our worth, to really build a healthy relationship with ourself and get that self-love, right? Because then from that place, you're able to develop a more natural relationship with food, a more intuitive relationship with food. And from a physiological point of view, when you're in these lower states, your body is in a state of fight or flight. Your hormones that you produce, you produce a different set of hormones. Your body holds on to weight because it thinks that you're in the middle of a situation where it might need to hang on to weight because you're in a famine or what, your body doesn't know. You're just upset because of stress in your life. Your body thinks that you're in some kind of serious crisis. And so it holds on to weight. So as you start to relax, as you start to support yourself, as you start to lift up into this place of power, the body starts to respond in a whole different way. And so it all starts to flow. And so that has been my approach and what worked for me, because I started to do the inner work first. The panic attacks kind of forced me into an extreme internal, process to figure out what was going on. And then as I did that, the beliefs I had around food started to become really clear. And so I started to support myself, and I really started to have a relationship with my inner child, which is why I brought this little picture of myself that I always keep around to remind myself, because that inner child, that little girl or little boy inside of you that didn't feel enough, that didn't feel safe, that didn't feel good when she was growing up, like just start to think about, what does that little girl most need to hear now, right? And for most of us, it's that we're divinely perfect the way we are now. It's that, my little Healy went off. It's that we, that we're divinely perfect the way we are now, because most of us are thinking once we lose the weight, then we'll feel good enough. Or once we get over here, then we'll be enough. But no, we need to create that feeling of self-love and, come back to the heart, know that we're worthwhile because we are. It has nothing to do with how we look. And so starting that relationship with yourself and starting to really support that part of yourself that is in so much pain because those emotional, when you're eating to suppress the emotions that are coming up, I think it's really powerful to think of the emotions as like a little child that needs your love. It's like a part of you, a part of your personal self is sitting in the dark in pain. And if you ignore that part of yourself and eat over that, or smoke over that, or binge watch TV over that, you're not giving that child the love. You're not giving yourself the support that you need. And so the more that I thought about it that way, the more I was able to really be with myself and allow myself to feel and give myself permission to feel. And every craving that I had that was coming, because I was trying to suppress what was going on inside of me, it gave me permission to really sit down and allow myself to feel. So that's my experience.
Wow, it makes so much sense though, doesn't it? Like, I mean, I know from a human design perspective, because for those that know, I love human design. And as part of the training, you learn about which environment you should eat in, like just your environment and how, like for some people, for me, it's like inside a cave, like on my own.
Inside a cave
like,
on your own.
Inside a cave on my own. Yeah, like for example, that. And there's like around that, there's always something around that. And he always said, so the guy who channeled human design, he said, it's not what you eat, it's the environment that you eat in, which is the same as for your emotional insides, what's going on within you. But I love this table. I love this so much because it's visual and you can really understand it. And I actually think that this chart, I mean, you probably can use this for everything. Like, for example, even manifestation or for anything, bringing something in. If we want to bring something in to our field and we're coming it from this desire, like craving place, we're probably not going to receive it because we're coming from this craving hyperactivity stage. Whether if we can come to peace, joy, and love and gratitude, then you're going to bring that in quicker. So actually, this chart is great. It's brilliant.
Well,
and I love the idea.
I love that, because if you get to the feeling of what it is you want to create it anyway, right? The reason we want anything is because how we're going to feel once we get that thing. So we want to lose weight because we think we're going to feel good enough, or we're going to feel free, or whatever, a lot of people also with feeling free. We think we're going to free once we get there. Right. With money too, we think we're going to feel free once we draw in the money that we want. But if you can, through your own choice, create that feeling of freedom and health and vitality and abundance in this moment now, right, then you're going to actually draw things to you with a lot more ease, and you're not going to be in that place of like gripping for it or trying to like get it from this unbalanced place, because you're already energetically in that place, right? So once I was able to bring myself to an energetically freer place and able to love myself exactly where I was, even with 15 years of destructive, behaviors and all of these things that I had done, when I was able to accept myself, I created that feeling of unconditional love and all of those higher things in my now. And then the relationship with food was able to unfold with a lot of ease. The other thing I did, I wanted to show you one more little quick thing that I made. The impact of what you believe, of course, right? And most people are struggling with food and body and weight, and that's the circumstance that's in their life, but they don't look at what they believe about that, right? Because your beliefs, of course, influence how you think, and how you think influences how you feel. And how you feel influences how you act, and then how you act influences what you experience, and then that reinforces your beliefs. And most, they have the circumstance of extra weight or eating in a way that doesn't serve them. And most people just go right to this. They go right to, let's change how I act. And they don't look at the beliefs and the thoughts and the emotions that are driving all of this. So as you start to do some of that, unpack that and really think about, what do I believe about my body? What do I believe about food? And that's an easy exercise that you can do, just right at the top of a sheet. What do I believe about myself? What do I believe about food? And just list everything that comes into your mind. When I did that for myself, I mean, the things I believed about food were insane. Like, food is dangerous, food is bad, food, like nothing about nourishment. Like, it was a very, dysfunctional and out of alignment belief system that I had around food that I couldn't see. And once I saw that, it's like wearing a coat that's too small. It's like, once you see that, you're like, oh my God, I just want to take this coat off and put on something that feels good to me, which is food is a gift. Food is something that nourishes me. Food is something that I need to be alive. So how can I shift from eating to shrink myself to eating to nourish myself? Right. And even though I had years of nutrition training, even though I was working for a nonprofit health group, even though I knew that intellectually, not until I started to do the emotional work and allowing myself to feel and unpacking what was going on inside of me, that I actually embody that and start to be able to really, you know, create a nourishing relationship with food from a place of self-love. And it's same thing with anything, like whatever it is you're trying to create, once you get to the feeling you're trying to get to, then why not just create that right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so with you on that one. It's all about the emotions and the thoughts that create the beliefs. So this is actually a good point now to talk to Jazz, because I know she's always talking about the mind as well and about how we're thinking. Jazz, do you have anything to add around this topic before you start with your TimeWaver?
Thank you, Abbey. Thank you, Heather. That was amazing. Well, on just following on from what Heather said, I think it would be really interesting if we just have in the chat box people putting the answers to those two questions that Heather actually asked, like what do we believe, what do you believe about food, and then what do you believe about your body? Because I can really use these and help create the sort of anti feeling if it is a negative feeling on the TimeWaver. So I don't know if you guys want to do like a bit of an
yeah, the antidote. We need the antidote.
And Jazz, I would love to hear from you, because the HEALY device only came into my world about 6 months ago. So I don't really understand the frequencies the way that you do. You've been working with these frequencies for, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. But I knew intuitively when this came in that this would be an awesome tool to help people come back into a balanced place. And I knew that it was a great supportive tool, right? Like, I don't think there's a golden bullet kind of in anything, right? But it is something to support us as we come back into our more powerful natural selves. But I'd love to hear from you about how this can support people from a frequency point of view to help them come back into a balanced place with food, body, and health. And I know you have like a weight loss frequency that you have created, or a program, or
so thank you, Heather. In terms of how can frequencies help, so obviously we have, like, even on the HEALY we have like the microcurrent, and then we have the resonance. For me, going like forward from what you were saying, Abbey, as well, the mind is like the biggest frequency generator that there is. So if we are really not, like you said, Heather, we're not working on our deeper emotions, we're not working on our self-love, and we're vibrating this frequency, yes, it will help for a little while. But once, because the level of food is the level of densest matter. Yeah, the level of body, it's where we become atom, we become physical. So often we need to tackle, if the problem is very deep, we need to tackle physical with physical. We can tackle it in the energetics only if the physical is absolutely ready, 100%. So 90% is not enough. And this is where I think, there needs to be a little bit more of a balance, because a lot of people are kind of wanting to change something and thinking, okay, I'll just take the frequency for it, and not change it in matter, where it's a really deep rooted pattern. And it doesn't work, frankly. It might for some people, but for a lot of people it doesn't. And that's what, and food is like probably the biggest arena for that not working, because you, like I said, you want to be tackling matter with matter, unless you are really, really ready. And how do you know that you're ready? Because if you put on weight, obviously you want to lose weight, that is a desire, but how much of that desire, how much of that emotion is coupled with action will really determine in the field how much you really want it. Because a lot of people have the desire, but they don't have the action. They don't have the capacity to take the action. So we want to get all the sort of, put all our ducks in line, and then see, like, how can we move forward with this? Because sometimes it means just being on a program. Okay, so just being on a program where you're kind of asked to eat certain things so that the body can detox, and then you can move on to the next level. And then you can, obviously, after doing or in combination with the emotional work. But simple answer to the question, Heather, is with frequencies are always a support. Yeah. Always a support. They have to be used, especially with food, in conjunction with something else. There are, however, times, like I worked with a client who gave up booze, like in the session. This is when there is just so much alignment in the field. She was absolutely ready to give up, and she just needed confirmation. Some of the things that came up, some of her deep-rooted patterns, and a light bulb moment came up for her in the session, and she decided, actually, yeah, no more. But the thing is, the energy she'd built up was what was actually driving it.
Right.
So
and that makes sense. That's why I think all of that self-love work and that inner work really helps you to be able to get to that point of saying, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. And somebody's just written, Bernie's written, I binge and then go on a guilt trip and then think it's bad, so I'll eat this and then start tomorrow. The start tomorrow is a very, very common one. Like, I'll start it tomorrow. I could write a book on food and nutrition, but can't stop the cravings. Yeah.
Frances will answer your question really quick as well. She says, sometimes I still reach for food for comfort or relief. How can I use the HEALY to help me realign with what I need? So here's the answer that I've given to people who've asked me this, Frances and everybody else. When you have enough awareness to realize you're about to reach for something for comfort, right? Remind yourself that that's really a craving for unconditional love. It's a frequency craving, right? You're not really craving food. You're craving a higher energetic. And so what you can do, I think the gold release is a really powerful one to run. Like, sit down and listen to something that will help you to process what's there and run gold release at the same time. There's a wonderful release meditation that I love called Rain by Tara Brach, and you can do rain and release at the same time, and that will really help to bring yourself back up into the powerful place where you are able to make a choice that feels better for you. But it's stopping, it's in the moment saying, wait a minute, I know what I'm about to do. Right. And instead, I'm going to take, I always say 5 minutes is what I used to say. Okay, I know what I'm about to do. I'm going to give myself 5 minutes, just 5, to go sit down and try and take care of myself, give myself love, and then see how I feel. So it gives the mind like a little trick, right? If I go do this for 5 minutes and I still feel the same way, fine. That choice is still there, right? That food is still there. That drink is still there. That person I'm going to text is still there. But if I take 5 minutes to try to do a different choice. So I think that the gold release is a really powerful one to run.
And on the physical,
I have also another one. Oh, sorry. Okay. I'll put some more ones in the chat box for you as well. The ones that I like to use, so you can listen to those. Go on, Jazz.
So yeah, and I've put one together for weight on a physical level. So often, like, we're having sugar because we're missing the sweetness in our life. So we want the sweetness from somewhere else. So we're trying to grab it. So in this program that I've put it together, it's obesity, eliminating toxins, lymphatic to help movement in the body. Candida is also something which is a really common cause of weight gain. And then there's frequencies for normalizing the liver. The liver is a really, really important organ. It actually has got the word live in it. It symbolizes without a liver, you're not in a very good state. And as your liver capacity goes down, the liver does more than 500 processes. It's an organ which cleans. It's the organ which detoxifies the body. So I've put in a lot of frequencies on the liver, and also kidneys, lungs, for the detoxification pathways to open. But I've also added some of the emotional side, so normalizing, just on the physical, hormones, adrenal function, electrolyte levels balancing, thyroid and gallbladder balance. The gallbladder is so important in breaking down the foods and the fats. And then coupled with that is like frequencies for intrusive sort of compulsive behavior. So we're also working on the part of the brain which is compulsive. So this will really help with things like sugar cravings. So then
as if somebody bought that from you and they downloaded it onto their HEALY device, how many should they run that once a day? Should they run that once a week? Like, what is your suggestion?
Once a day is good.
Once a day.
Once a day. So the way the program is set up is it'll have a range of frequencies on it. It'll have like a range of frequencies in a database. So every day, and I've put a lot of databases in there. So every time you run it, you won't have like, it's not the same frequency that you will get. The quantum sensor in the HEALY will look at what does this person need today, and then it will sort of pick, okay, so from the addictive, or say that there's databases in there for dealing with traumatic or unresolved or unexpressed feelings. So from that, one day you might need a particular hertz value, and then the next day you might need another one. Yeah. So running it, like if it's quite a chronic issue, then every day is good.
I love that.
So also creating stability, and then there's frequencies for release. So this and release would be really good. Acceptance, motivation, purification, inner renewal. I've put as much of the emotional side and the physical side in there. All the systems that I feel were relevant for. This one is particularly for weight loss, but actually there's so many systems that are in there that it's really just a harmonizing the body type program.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm going to share that with everybody in my group who has one of these. Francis, I'll share a link with you to get that. I think that would be ideal, because we need, I think having that extra support is amazing.
Yeah, and I think when it's combined in one program, so you'll have the emotional side, releasing the trauma, the physical side. Yeah.
And there's some answers and questions over here. Can I respond to some of them, or some comments?
Yeah, go for it. If you want to respond to some of them, that would be good. I think we've got to get the TimeWaver in as well. So Jazz, are you getting some of the information here?
Yeah, so as you guys carry on, so just very quickly, if there's anything that anybody wants to put on about your belief about food, just very like one line, or just a few words, like 3 words about what comes up emotionally in terms of your belief about food. Guilt is a really strong one. I've already got that one on there.
Also, anyone in the Facebook Live, I am watching you. So if you wanted to add something, just type into the Facebook Live chat and I will copy it into the Zoom chat.
Jazz, I would say to add a feeling of feeling safe.
Oh, into the program?
Yeah.
Oh, into the TimeWaver. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because the comment Rosie here says, I feel there's something about lack, needing to store fat while there's food available. I think there's a past life aspect here. Yeah, so, and I'm just going to give you my perspective on past lives. If it's coming up in your quantum field right now, then it's present for you in this life here and now. So if you deal with it in this life here and now, that's really all you need to know. That's my point of view on that. That will send those frequencies back to those other aspects or other lives, but you wouldn't even be able to connect with that other aspect of you if it wasn't frequent, if it wasn't energetically going on in your right now. So Rosie, what that feels like to me is a feeling of not having enough food. And maybe this is something you experienced when you were a child. That may be a reminder that comes back, but it's like, maybe you grew up in a home where there are a lot of other kids around, you never felt like you had enough. And so there's some aspect of you that's always feeling like she needs to hoard food and even needs to hoard extra weight so that you are safe. Does that make sense? Let me see if you respond. And when you start to focus on the fact that you're safe, like purposely put your consciousness, right? Okay, good. So I'm guessing that happened when you were young. And it could be that another lifetime experienced that as well. But again, it's happening in the now. But really tomorrow, and starting when we get off this call, focus intentionally on how you have enough food. Do you know what I mean? Look around and say, oh, I actually have enough food right now, right? If you are purposely putting your attention on there, oh, I have enough food. Oh, I'm actually safe in this moment here and now. I'm actually safe in this moment here and now, right? These are stories that are happening in our mind, When we bring ourselves back into the now, you can actually show yourself, I'm safe right here, right now, and I have food right here, right now. And that will allow yourself to relax more into the now so that you stop yourself in that cycle. Does that make sense? Okay. And let's see, Bonnie says, much history of starvation in my family and past lives deserve food. Okay, great. But now you're aware of that, and it's the same thing, right? Even if your family experienced that, even if that's going on in other aspects of you and other timelines, is that going on for you now? Bonnie, is that going on for you right now? Right? Because it's those narratives and stories in our mind and these subconscious beliefs and these programs we've taken on. When we come back into the now, we're able to, wait a minute, what's actually going on right here, right now is not what my mind thinks is going on right here, right now. And so we bring ourselves back into the heart, and through our own choice to be loving, right? Again, you can tune in, you can think of these things that you're typing here, right? And these things that are coming up for you, actually think of them as like kids that need your support, and you can be the loving parent to that aspect of you that believes she's in danger of starvation, that believes she doesn't have enough. And you can have a conversation with that part of you. What does that part of you most need to hear right now? Hey, you're safe. We actually have enough food right here, right now, right? You're lovable exactly the way that you are, right? So you can start to speak to those aspects of you once you're aware of them. Once you're conscious of them, you are the awareness of them. So you're no longer identified as them. And then you are able to have a conversation with that aspect of yourself, show unconditional love to that aspect of yourself. And from an energetic point of view, when you are flowing unconditional love to yourself, that energy starts to transmute and you start to feel better. So having awareness of these stories is huge.
And I think on that, Heather, like, it helps also maybe to give that part a name.
Yeah.
Then it gives it another identity.
Yeah.
You know, because
great idea.
Yeah, it really helps giving it a name, because then it doesn't just become a part of you, it's just merged into the actual me, and then it gets wishy-washy, like a different name. Because then also it's like a name which you no longer want in your field. You know, the destructive part of you, that emotional eater part of you. We want to bring it with love, but we don't want to become it. Yeah.
Right. We definitely don't want to become that. But the more we don't ignore it, and the more that we accept it, and the more we understand it, the easier that energy transmutes, right? Because you're no longer shaming that part of yourself. You're no longer denying that part of yourself. You're shining a light on that part. And you're saying, you're not in control anymore. I am.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, do you want to say anything else, Heather?
Oh, Bonnie says, my mind understands, my body not so much. So Bonnie, definitely, that's why breathing yourself back into an embodied state is an important part of this, because if it's all going on in the mind, if you can actually imagine when you are aware that story is running, you can actually scan your body, take a couple of deep breaths, bring yourself back into the now, scan your body, notice where that energy lives. Bonnie, Rosie, anybody else here, like, see if you can identify where that energy lives in your body, whether it's your throat, your stomach, your neck back here. See if you can start to see where in your body that is. And then you can start to send love to that part of you. Something that I use is the Ho'oponopono prayer. Like, I'll see where it is, and then I'll just imagine saying to that, you know, to my throat, to my neck, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you. Thank you.
Maybe you can do that, Heather, now. Like, if you lead it and just repeat that like a few times, and I'll set the vibration running.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do that. Like, I think that would be really nice.
I can walk through a little process that I do. The projector process is what I call it, or I love yourself through it right now, if that would work for everybody here.
Yeah, sure.
Amazing. I love that idea. Let's do it.
Okay, perfect.
I'll just set the vibrations running. So I think if everybody just sort of closes their eyes and goes a bit inwards and just feels, and I think Heather, you wanna guide it with the breathing and everything? Okay, perfect.
I can do it. All right, everybody. So let's close our eyes. Take a couple of deep breaths. Deep inhale in. I bring myself fully to the present. Deep exhale out. I release and let everything go. Deep inhale in. I bring myself fully to the present. Deep exhale out. I release and let everything go. And then right now, just to help us become aware of anything that's ready to be released, in your mind's eye, the same way that you would imagine yourself going on vacation or going somewhere fun, like sitting on the beach or going for a walk in the forest. Imagine in your mind's eye now, and you can actually see this like you're sitting on a chair. Imagine in your mind's eye that you're sitting in a chair, and in front of you is a projector, like a giant screen. And just imagine right now that you project onto that screen challenging situation you have with food and body. There could be any challenging situation that you have in your life. But a lot of us struggle with body and food, and that's what this is about. So just project that onto the screen, noticing that you're sitting on the chair and that you're safe. And as you notice whatever is playing out on the projector in front of you, start to be aware of the energies that start to come up as you watch this scene, and play it out in full color, whether it's you binging or it's you trying on clothes that don't fit well, or whatever scenario comes into your mind. Play it out in full 3D color on the projector now, and start to be aware of the energy that comes up as you watch this scene unfold. And once you're aware of the energy coming up, you can take your attention off the screen and bring it back into your body now, and scan your body and notice where you're feeling the energy the most. You're aware of the energy, you're not lost in the energy. Notice if it's in your throat, if it's in your stomach, your hands, you might feel it everywhere. Just be aware of where the energy is. And then when you're ready, you can focus your attention into that place now. And then just repeat these words with me. It's the Ho'oponopono prayer. I'm sorry. And you can say these words out loud with me. You can put your hands on your heart. Again, directing your energy into the part of your body where you feel this most. And just say these words out loud with me. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And you can take some deep inhales in as you say these words. Deep inhale in, exhale. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. One more time, deep inhale in. Exhale out. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Deep inhale in. Deep exhale out. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. One more time, deep inhale in. Deep exhale out. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. We'll do it one more time. Deep inhale in, deep exhale out. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And if you want to, you can even start to have a conversation with that emotion now that it's calmed down a little bit. Just ask that part of you, that emotional entity that's there, if it is anything it wants to share with you. Anything it wants you to know. And you're here as the loving parent. It may not make sense. This part of you may be very scared, very alone. It may just want to be seen. But you can be the loving witness to whatever this part of you wants to share. And you can let this part of you know that you're sorry you've ignored her for so long. You've ignored it for so long, him or her. That it's not alone, that you're here now. You're in charge. You're not going to abandon him or her anymore. But you're also not going to let this part of you run the show, because you're here. And you're connected to source and your heart. And so you have the skills, the wisdom and the intelligence of the heart. So you're going to be the one in charge now. And it might take some time to form a relationship with this inner child, but that's okay. The more you do this, the more you're connected to your heart, yourself, the more you remember your power to transmute whatever is there, and the more you have compassion for yourself and this part of yourself that's reaching outside of yourself for love. And you remember you don't have to reach outside of yourself, that what it is you desire is here in the now. And that you, the divine being that you are, connected to love and light, you are the power that created this, and you are the power that decides when you take your power back and live and eat from this place. Nothing outside of you controls you. You're the power that decides. And forming this relationship with yourself is the most powerful thing you can do. Because this is how we integrate those aspects of ourselves, those energy, those entities, those frequencies. By dealing with them, whatever comes up in the now, they wouldn't be coming up if you weren't ready to shower love and acceptance and compassion on them now, so that you can transform them with love and they can integrate back into love. So whatever comes up, know that you can handle that. Know that it wouldn't be coming up unless you were ready for this, unless you were ready to meet this with love. So every emotional food craving that you have, you can be thankful for it, because that means you're ready to transmute this. You're ready to meet this with love, and you have the power to do so. So you can be thankful. Every time an emotional food craving comes up, it's like an SOS sign from your heart saying you're powerful and you're strong, and this part of you needs your love. And then your emotional food cravings become your best friend. A sign from your heart. And you can always use these words. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you, to anchor you back in to what we've created here. Okay. You want to come back into the now and share how that experience was. Thank yourself. You can also say a little prayer. Dear Divine, thank you for supporting me. Dear Higher Self, dear you, dear me, thank you for showing up, for having the courage to meet these emotions with love. It's actually not a hard process to meet our emotions with love. It's just we make it complicated with our minds. At least that's what I've found.
It's really interesting, actually, on a TimeWaver. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, so blackberry comes up as a healing food. So obviously it's not for everyone, but it comes up really strong.
Okay.
There's a suffering pattern of feeling really immoral. There's also a stress factor that I'm in the wrong direction in my life.
That one actually makes a lot of sense, because when I was struggling with food, body, weight, all the things, that was a huge, overwhelming feeling I had. Like I've gone down the wrong path. Somehow something is terribly wrong with me. This wouldn't be happening to me.
Yeah.
Right? The more I was able to turn that around and say, no, this is a gift. This is supposed to be happening right now. It's happening to help me come back to my heart. That really helped to integrate that.
Yeah. And it is on a much more karmic level. So it makes sense if it's really hard to shift. It's coming obviously from probably the lineage or the genetic imprint. Also, I'm on the same level, the karmic level. I'm and then, but also a block that comes up is I'm desperate because I don't know what I should do. Very, very strong. 10 out of 10. That one. Like I'm desperate because I don't know what I should do.
Right. That's really common with people who struggle with food, because you try everything, nothing works, and you're in this lower place, and it feels like there's no hope.
Yeah.
But there's always hope.
And then I'm desperate because other people are better. I'm angry because other people are better. And I'm angry because I've made a mistake. So anger really hits the liver. And once the liver goes off balance, like all the other organs and all organ system very slowly over time go out of balance. So it's really interesting that anger comes up so much. So
well, and it's anger, at least for the people that I tend to work with and the ones that are drawn to me, anger always gets directed back to self for the most part, right? And then occasionally that'll come up really strong, and you'll direct that towards somebody else, and then a tremendous amount of guilt will come with that.
Guilt
so
is
anger,
so strong.
right?
Yeah.
Anger is one that most people that work with me, it's an emotion that we really push away. That wasn't one that was allowed. That wasn't one that we accepted in any way, shape, or form. So being able to process through the anger that comes up is so important, right? Being able to meet that anger with love. Yeah,
absolutely. And then one comes up, which is I think a really significant one, that it's a doctrine, an affirmation that I can get older and be healthy, which obviously means the opposite exists at the moment. So this affirmation needs to be re-imprinted in the field. And obviously it's natural that we think there's going to be some sort of decline, but when that thought becomes more perpetuating and can take over daily activity, can really make one sick. when we think I'm getting older, I am, and everything negative after the I am. So that's a really, really nice one that has come up itself.
I think that's one we're really deeply conditioned into as well. I mean, we don't see a lot of examples of people that at this point that age with vitality and health and then are considered wise. I mean, our society is pretty afraid of age at this point, and really starting to sink into, as we age, that's how we become wise, and knowing that our bodies are meant to support us through this entire life, right? At 51, I feel better than I did at 31 or 21, right? I don't feel the exact same, but I have as much energy and vitality today as I did then. And so starting to really rearrange that in our consciousness is important, because we can age with ease, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of people just asked about the program. I'll just put the website here if anyone's interested. You can
Perfect.
the website.
Rosie says there's also a huge extreme pressure to be slim. Yeah, and sometimes what happens with that, I'm just going to share really quick about that, is when there's a pressure to be thin or a pressure to be a certain way, for me, a pressure not to eat certain foods, that rebellious part of my ego self would get really loud and rebel against that. That's why I would binge. That's why I would eat the foods I wasn't supposed to eat, because anytime we have this external pressure, our ego can form this very rebellious part that goes against that. And so then we end up keeping ourselves in poor health because we're unconsciously rebelling against the pressure to be slim. But once you're aware of that, then you can choose the size you want to be at because of you, not because anybody else is telling you to be thin or to be at a healthy weight. And by the way, I think there's a range of healthy, there isn't like one particular weight we need to be. There's a healthy range, but you can choose to be at a healthy range, and you can set the intention, and your body will work with you to get you to a range that feels good.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I just want to tell Ayana, I know you were about to leave. You asked a couple of questions about when to run the HEALY program. Like for everyone, I always say there's no right or wrong way to do it. Use it intuitively, but it's recommended to do up to 3 programs a day if you want to. And I would just say do it, have one intention, just one intention, and then use the programs as you like to use them, because the intention is the most important thing. And then having something to balance that. So you could either do 1 program a day, alternate them, or do them all every day and do it for a month if you'd like to. Do it and just check in with yourself and how you feel, and journal about it, like mark from 1 to 10 how you feel, and then every day check it out, because there's no measure with HEALY actually. And it's a big question. Everyone asks this question of when to do the program, how often to do the program. Really, you have to really write it down, like measure your own progress and how you feel. That's the best way you can measure using HEALY programs and working with frequency, because you're not going to get a straight answer. And some days it gets easier and some days it gets harder. Sometimes you hit a block. Maybe you do work for a week and then suddenly something will come up. And then you have to get through that day, the day you ever stop doing what you want to do, or maybe you feel tired. They're the best days to do the HEALY programs on, even if you don't want to do it, even if you're getting blocked, because they're the days that you're going to have to break through. And usually that's what always came up for me when I was doing my meditation. So there was always one day where I didn't want to go, or I didn't want to get out of bed. They're the best days for transformation. It's just, you just got to get past the mind, which is trying to block you from doing what you want to do with the programs and reaching where you want to go and your potential. So just, if you're still there, that's great. And for everyone else watching, that's really important advice for HEALY programs, is really try to tap into what feels good for you rather than doing what everyone else is telling you to do as well. So I'm aware of time. Do you want to finish off what you're doing?
No, I just want to add something to that, Abby.
Yeah.
I think it could be useful for people. Also, the percentage that you set it on, although they give a guideline, you can put it high or you can put it lower, and that bit is really important, because when we make HEALY programs, we give it a range, like up to 10 volts, whatever, whichever one that therapist has chosen. So you have to really, like with the HEALY program, depending on who you get it from, or what, you have to really actually feel it. What percentage of that are you using in each program? Some programs from some people will feel really strong, and therefore you use them at a lower percentage. And some programs will feel, actually, I need to run each program at this. So really play around with the percentage as well. That's something that I don't know if that gets talked about very often. We kind of have like, I'm running each program at this percentage, but play around with it. And more isn't more. Sometimes less is more.
Is it because when the circle goes white, does that mean you're at the right percentage? Is that correct?
Yeah, the circle being white means that it's the frequencies are being absorbed.
Okay.
And that you're being connected.
I see. So you have to feel through what feels right for you for each of the different.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You feel.
I think as well, like if it becomes uncomfortable, that's when your body can start resisting it as well, because your body is going like, oh, so if it's feeling like pain, or like at the very beginning for those people that had the old wristbands, you could really feel it in them, and it would be like, ouch, ouch, over certain frequencies. That's probably not a good place to be at. You're better off just being comfortable. I like to feel it. I sometimes feel it more, like my finger starts moving like this sometimes, but it's not uncomfortable. But then also, like for example, some of them with the ear clips, for those that have the ear clip ones, that became, some of them I couldn't go for more than 15% because it was so intense on the ears. So I would always just like tap into what feels comfortable, not like, oh, let's do loads, because you're going to get the frequencies no matter what anyway. So
you get them no matter what. And also you know, like the percentage is you know, they've kind of given, I think, what percentage do they recommend?
What do they recommend? They don't really give a recommendation. I used to do mine around 50%, but actually I've turned it up a little bit. There's also a way to turn up the intensity of your HEALY. For those people that don't know how to do that, it's possible. There is a low and a high, and you can do that through the Heal Advisor app. I have a tutorial video on my YouTube link how to do that. It's really simple. You just have to go and click a button and it will turn up the intensity of your HEALY. But you have to go through the Heal Advisor app, and everyone should have that now. So I'll put my YouTube link in the chat box. But yeah, in terms of recommendations, it's only where you feel comfortable. There'll be some frequencies that will suddenly you'll feel them because they're at a certain frequency and your body takes them on. And if that's uncomfortable, then just turn it down. I think that's probably the best advice.
And I think, sorry, okay.
If I was just going to say, for food, if you are aware enough of your cycles with food and your patterns with food, most of us, it's a pattern, you know, the time of day where you tend to reach for comfort foods the most, or you know the times a day where that occurs for you, you can set yourself up for success and put environmental cues up, like in your kitchen, for example, that say, go run this HEALY program here and listen to this, right? Like you can give yourself environmental cues and actually use those times to remind you to support yourself, because that's when you most need support and love. When you're reaching for food is when you most need to love yourself. You most need to support yourself. You most could use the frequencies.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're also living in a very instantaneous world. Like we want results now. So when we're saying, see how you feel, that also doesn't mean like straight away when you finish the program, like give it a day. Like maybe even give it 2 days to see how did you feel after that? How did you sleep after that? No, actually I ran it. I didn't feel anything much. Let me try run another one. You know, like really consider how are you really feeling? Are you giving it time to feel? Because what the frequencies are doing is they're changing the membrane potential of your cells. When this membrane potential of your cell changes and it becomes more balanced, doesn't mean you're going to get the feeling straight away. The body system might have to act, and then you feel the flow of energy possibly a bit later. So really give it time. And like I said, I think the biggest thing, like for me, what I would advise people with the HEALY is like more isn't necessarily more. Like, yeah, just
I'm
really
dropping into the link here just some free resources I have on my site. So if anybody wants to check those out, you can.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I feel like we've gone a little bit over. I just wanted to say thank you to you both for just the most amazing session, and I know a lot of people will be watching the replay as well, so it's great that we're able to reach more people to, advise around this topic. I think it's such a big one. And I've really enjoyed the session with you both. It's been great. Jazz, I don't know, it's been great to have the TimeWaver frequencies come up as well. Will you be sending them out? Or
Yeah, I'll send them out. I'll send them out for another 4 or 5 hours. So just stay in. How is anybody feeling anything at the moment?
And can you explain, and there'll be some people on the call that are in my world who don't understand how the TimeWaver works. So if you could just briefly explain what it is you're doing and how the TimeWaver is different from the HEALY device, that would be awesome. For I know some.
Okay, so the TimeWaver is just the very simple way to put it is like a giant resonance scan. So I took while you were doing the meditation, I took the print, the consciousness print of the group. And I basically then did some analysis, and these other things that have come up. So when I say that these are the things that come up, these are almost the blocks in the field to optimal health. And so I searched for answers on an emotional level, on a physical level. I only spoke about a few of them. So that's what we're going to now be optimizing to change or shift to reaffirm in a different way in the field.
Great.
So
And
it like rewrites, it reprints on the field.
For those who don't have a HEALY device, you're talking about the quantum field, and you took the scan of everybody's quantum field, which holds the energetics, which makes the physical body. I just want to make that clear to anybody who's does not have a HEALY device yet and doesn't understand how this device works. Because I know I'll put a replay up in my group, and there'll be a bunch there. I'll be like, what?
Okay. All
yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool.
I always describe it as like the database of every energy, everything you've ever done in your lifetime, including everything that's happened in the past and everything that's already happened in the future. It's in a huge database of an energetic database, and it's like reading that.
Yeah.
And it will take in, because it's got our information, it's going to be able to tune into each of our information fields, where we can take in that information. It can really scan our information field on this giant energetic database, and so that we can really like receive those frequencies on that level. And it works from a distance. You don't need to be straight away with it. It's like for me, TimeWaver is like Jazz said, a giant HEALY. And there's the part where it works on a physical level, like Pink Dot app, and there's a part which works distantly on an information level, which is what Marcus Meeker, who designed this, has done quite a lot of YouTube videos about. So those that people want to learn more, there'll be a few videos. Maybe I can share with Heather. I have a great video that explains HEALY, a really great one. It's only 30 minutes long, and I'm happy to share that with you, so you can share that and if anyone wants to do some further learning about what HEALY is and what TimeWaver is as well.
And that's actually why it's called TimeWaver, because it can waver time. That's why it's called TimeWaver. So you go back to a point of trauma, past, future, it can also be done. You can clear things in the Akashic field. But just like every computer has an individual IP address, every person also has an individual identity in the Akashic field. So that's like sort of how it works. That's why when I do a TimeWaver session on somebody, a one-to-one session, I would literally take their details, as much detail as possible, where they work, where they live, where they were born, their photos, so that the field can home in on who is this person.
Very cool.
Quantum healing, basically.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So great. Thank you so much, everyone. You'll be able to watch the replay at any time on the live, and I'll also be doing a YouTube link for this as well, so you can watch it. Bernie's saying, if we listen to this recording again, do we still get the frequencies? I always say yes. It's like what we just said. It doesn't matter where you're at in this timeline. It will have already picked up the frequencies of everyone that's going to watch this or has watched it in the future already. I love that about this machine, and it can really pick that up. So yes, of course, if your intention is that you're going to receive the frequencies, you will receive the frequencies, and that's how it works. So thank you for all who've joined. Everyone in the Facebook chat as well. It's been great to see you all. I will see you on the next session. And just if anyone wants to check out Heather's website, she's running classes around this topic. Jazz is doing TimeWaver scans, one-to-ones, which are just awesome. I'm always sending people over to her as well. And if anyone wants to join the Heal Avalon membership, I'm running classes 2 a week. If you want to do a free discovery call with me, just, you know, send me a PM and we can do that to see what it is you want to learn about HEALY, and we'll see what I can offer and how I can help you with that. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, everyone.
Much love. Much love.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.